Welcome to another episode of CandisLive. And as usual, it is a pleasure to have you here with me. Today we're going to take a journey back into my past and we're going to learn a very valuable lesson that will work for you either today, tomorrow, next week, or whenever. It will work for your children. It will work for every single person in your life. So come on in, let's get into it. Yeah, I would have these conversations all of the time with people concerning what is integrity, what is accountability. How do we demonstrate integrity and accountability when no one is watching? You may think that this is an easy thing, but this is a very difficult thing to do. I remember when I was in high school, I was about in grade 12, and I had an opportunity to present a gift and a speech to the Governor General. Now, it required me to come into school on a Saturday and commit that time to learning the speech and learning how to present it. At that time, I was the deputy head girl at my school, and so I had to be there. It was a part of my job description. I didn't think much of it until an opportunity came about to participate in the Red Cross Fair. Now, the Red Cross Fair is one of the most exciting events that happens around town. Every year we look forward to it. From I was as tiny as this to now, I still look forward to the Red Cross Fair. And it just so happens that the Red Cross Fair coincided with me preparing for this speech. Now, early in the morning, I thought about it. I'm like, even though I'm a leader in my school, do I really need to show up to practice to... come on, I don't really need to show up to practice to do this thing for the Governor General. He won't know the difference. And I thought about it. And then, after jostling back and forward with my thoughts on the situation, I decided that, you know what? I'm going to show up. They chose me. I'm going to show up. And so when I showed up to practice, all of my fears came pouring in. Because at that time, I was not a public speaker. I froze when I got in public. You spoke to me and man, I was sweating. My palms were sweating. My feet were sweating. My hair was sweating. Everything was sweating. And I tried my darndest to keep my cool. And so when I was in that auditorium, and I remember standing in the back of the podium, and there was this lady midway in the auditorium, and she had this stick, and she kept tapping on the floor. Curl your S's, cross your T's, dot your I's, enunciate, enunciate. And the more she said it, the more nervous I got. And at some point I decided, man, no, I can't do this. I cannot do this. This is too much for me. And then all the way in the back of the auditorium, there was my school principal. And the entire time I was being given the instructions to enunciate, cross the T's, dot the I's, speak clearly, project your voice. There was my principal all the way at the back of the auditorium saying, you can do it. You can do it. Go ahead. Yes, you got this. You got this. And so with that burst of encouragement, I was able to stand there and do what I needed to do. I was able to be accountable because my mother had encouraged me and dropped me off to school, so that I can be in place because she knew what my commitments were. And see, the thing is, I'm not sure that this is a measure of my integrity. This is the outcome of me being encouraged to do something. But a true measure of my integrity came much later in the day. And it is a lesson that I learned that has stuck with me from then, which was more than 2 decades ago, to now. And I'll tell you what happened. So after leaving practice for my speech and getting all of that great encouragement, I went down to the Red Cross Fair and I was stationed at the hoopla table. Now, while stationed at the hoopla table, I was on the inside of the gate, so I was the one passing the hooplas to the persons that had chosen to play the game. During the entire time persons were choosing to play the game, I was watching the table. Oh, I was looking at, if you stand on this side and you lean that way and you throw the hoop like this, yeah, you could win what's on the table. And if you do it on this side and you go from that angle, yeah, you can get what's on the table. And this was the entire time I was behind that table, in the position to guard what I was assigned to, I took that position very, very seriously. And I made sure every single person was accountable. And once I made sure that every single person was accountable, I also began to learn different techniques in order to beat the game. Now, I'm not good at playing games. I always lose. I don't know why. I just never win at playing games. But this was my opportunity to possibly win because I was stationed in a position to see the game from the other person's perspective, to see the game from the designer's perspective. That was my position. I was in a position to place the pawns where I needed them to be. Now, consider this. I was about 15 or 16 years old at the time, and it never occurred to me that anything that I was learning at a hoopla table at the Red Cross Fair would affect my life for the rest of my life. It absolutely never occurred to me. But then it was time for a break. The other person working in the stall came over to me and said, "Okay, Candice, you can go and take a break." Now, I was excited. I didn't have much money, but I'd spend the entire afternoon learning this table, learning how to throw that hoop just right to win at this game, because I wanted to win at this game. And so once my break had started, I went on the other side of the table. I went, got my tickets, came back to the table, and I was ready to go. So I hand my tickets over, and the person that had worked the table with me had gone off and someone new was there. And so as I stood on the edge of the barricade and I positioned myself, because I'd already figured it out, I'd done the math. This is where I needed to be in order to win. And so I positioned myself to win. And I leaned in and I threw that hoop and bam, I got it. I got it. I won something for once. But as that hoop just sailed across the air and landed on that object, the man that had worked with me earlier that day appeared, and he watched me from a distance. And before he handed anything over to me, he walked up to me and he said to me, "You worked this table this morning. You got an opportunity to see this from the other side. You came here to help. And what you're doing right now is stealing." And I know that's harsh, right? It's stealing. Why is it stealing? You know why it's stealing? You know why it demonstrated a lack of integrity on my part? It demonstrated a lack of integrity because I was placed in a position of power. I was placed in a position to orchestrate the game so that it would benefit the cause that we were out there to support. Every single item that wasn't lost in the game, every single dollar that was spent, all of it was brought together to provide aid for those that are less fortunate, or for those that found themselves in hard times, because that is the mission of the Red Cross. But here I was. I had signed on to be a part of that mission. I had signed on to be a force for change. I had signed on to ensure that the goals of the Red Cross and the goals of the fair would be accomplished. But just like that, my desire to win pushed me into a position that I lost sight of my own integrity. And the thing about integrity is this. Integrity is who you are when no one's looking. What do you stand for when no one's looking? When I was called out, see, he didn't just call me out and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." He called me out and he called it what it is. You are a thief. And you know how I became a thief in that moment? It wasn't because I didn't pay for the rings to throw it, you know. It wasn't because I didn't go through the regular course that every other person went through that had stood on the other side of that gate and thrown that hoop. I went through the same course. The difference is that I was given the authority and the opportunity to position every single thing on the other side of that gate. And I positioned everything for myself. I positioned it so that I could win. I watched every single strategy that was developed whilst I was standing on the outside of that gate. Everything, to the detail. Oh yes, I'm this height. I'm this tall. So if I'm this tall, this angle is not a good angle for me, that angle. And so everyone that came up that was about my height, I looked. Okay, that's how you do it. I got it. I got it. It's the equivalent of reading cards in the casino. And so when he called me out on my misbehavior, it startled me because I wasn't a thief. I was a person that had integrity. And so he wasn't just calling me a thief, but he was calling me to take a deeper look into myself and my perspective of what my part in every situation I find myself in is. Is it my role to be a leader? Is it my role to set the pace? Am I the one that everyone else is following? Or am I following someone else? Now, the thing about being a leader does not necessarily mean that you are in front. A true leader can lead from any position. A true leader can lead from a sitting position all the way at the back. A true leader can lead, you know what, a story that comes to mind when I think of a true leader, I think of the story of Jesus and his disciples when he was out on the water. They, everyone out in the boat, Jesus was on shore and they're sleeping, right? A true leader. He walks on the water to meet his disciples. And Peter's like, oh, Lord, that's you. And Jesus is like, yeah, man, that's me. That's me. He said, but I ain't sure. He said, come out here. Come out here. Let me show you, man. Let me show you. I can do this. You can do this. You come out here. Let me show you. Right? And Peter jumped out of the boat, jumped onto the water. And as long as he was keeping eye contact with the prize, he stayed above the water. And the minute he took his eyes off, he fell beneath the water. And the thing is, his eye contact with a leader, his eye contact with the purpose of him being out there. His purpose was not to walk on water, That was not the purpose of him walking out of the boat. The purpose of him walking out of the boat was to reach Jesus. So whatever you do, if you are moving with integrity, you must always remember the purpose of you doing something. It doesn't matter where you're positioned. It doesn't matter if you are the authority, if you are the ones making the rules, or if you are the ones enforcing the rules. Integrity means that you show up, show off, and do exactly what is required of you, regardless of whatever is happening. Now, I know this is a tough one. Who sits down in a show and says, hey, listen, you remember that time I stole from the Red Cross? But it's about integrity. How can I talk to you about being accountable without showing you, hey, I know what it is. My feet have been held to the flame. I know what it is to be thoroughly embarrassed, because I was. And I remember having to explain this situation. Now, this happened in private. It wasn't as though he disrespected me or exposed me in a group of people. He pulled me aside and he told me, hey, you're wrong. You are wrong. And that changed my whole perception of what integrity is. From that moment on, whoever I was when I was being held accountable on the outside, because I was in a position, whoever I represented myself as in those situations, I made it my business that behind closed doors, I would be that exact same person. There would never be a time when someone could say, Candice did this and Candice said that. Because of my own integrity, if I said it, good, bad, or indifferent, and you ask me, oh Lord, don't ask me. If you ask me, and the answer is yes, you will get a resounding yes, in spite of the consequences. Because I make practicing having integrity a part of my everyday life. It does not mean that I am successful every time. Because sometimes you find yourself in situations where it's a hard choice. You feel like you're behind, a rock, a hard place, and there's something dropping on your head, and it's like, I need to get out of this situation. I need to compromise. I need to do whatever it takes to break free of what is happening around me and what is compressing me. But I urge you, in spite of that feeling of compression, in spite of that feeling of limitedness, stay true, be strong, be truthful, be sincere, be the person that you can look in the mirror and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are worth it. Because it won't matter if someone is looking. You are who you are. As great as you are in the spotlight, you shine even more in the darkness. As great as you are when you have an audience to cheer you on, to ensure that you stay in line, you can be that great without an audience. You can be that great standing alone, without the aid of a family, without the aid of a friend, without the aid of anything else. You can be that great. You can be the kind of person that you respect. You can be that person every single day. So, my message for you today is integrity is up to you. Position yourself always to be truthful. It's not going to be easy all the time, and it's not going to produce the effects that you would prefer every single time. But one thing it will do every single time is it will create a place in you that no one else can touch. It will create a confidence in you that nothing that happens in this world that is outside of you can shake. When it comes to learning who you are, the level of your integrity is what helps you to hold firm when you hear your own voice, when you have your own thoughts, when the crowd is making all of the noise that they want to make because they are at unrest with something that is going on. If you know yourself and you've established your own integrity, it will not matter what the world says, because you will be the best version of you every single time. As always, it is great to talk to you. I can't wait until the next time. As always, it is a pleasure to be here with you. Today we talked about integrity. Integrity is so important, you know. It's not just about how you live in the world, but how you live with yourself. And the more you can be honest and whole with you, the better your life will be out in the wider world. Until next time, I love you.